Welcome to the J-Train Podcast. This is J-Train, Jared Freid, coming alive from the new quarantine cabin. I am out in Connecticut doing shows, getting some podcasts under the belt, as I am every Monday and Thursdays with your emails, your stories, your questions. I say it every episode. Let me say it again. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you for telling a friend. Thank you. That's how it all works. That's the only way I have listeners, is because you came from someone way down the road. You're like someone who caught COVID-19. It started, way off, and your disease could have came from Europe. You don't even know. You could have gotten this podcast from an old woman out in Seattle. You don't know, because she told a friend, and the friend told a daughter, and the daughter told the guy that she was hooking up with, and all of a sudden it floated to you. So we need you to continue the J-Train pandemic. I need you to spit the word of J-Train into other people's mouths and ears. That's what I need. So keep spreading the word. That is a really weird way to tell you to keep spreading the word. Keep telling a friend, a coworker, a brother, a sister, a mama, a papa. Anyone with ears will take them. Very excited about today's guest. First timer on the show. Hilarious comic. He's got a podcast called Black Twitter Talk Podcast. Go listen. Go subscribe. Charles McBee, thank you for coming on.
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Oh, I mean, considering, back inside joke from before.
Yeah, we were talking about how hard it is to say how you're actually doing. Like, yeah, I'm doing great. And then as someone's passing out from disease and horribleness next to you. It's caused me now. I have such anxiety when people ask me how I'm doing that I have to register their tone and how they're asking me how you're doing. Because it's also very presumptuous to assume that everyone is doing shitty. So they lead in with the, how's it going? Like they're expecting the, that they want your tale of sadness. And also, it's one of those things. It's like, it's probably the wrong question for an introduction. Like, we're asking a question we don't really want the answer to.
Exactly.
Like if I said, how you doing? And they were like, I'm happy you asked. I'd be like, damn it. Like,
exactly.
why? Like, oh no. And so it is, but again, like, that's why we've created these like punctuations, like unprecedented, weird times, new normal. Right. We're just saying that to get through it for if someone does answer us.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the stuff. These are uncertain times. It's just like you just say the words and keep it moving.
And that keeps it moving to, okay, what coffee will you be having today?
Exactly.
Well, Charles, I'm a big fan. I love watching your stand-up. You got great stuff on Instagram. I want everyone to go follow you right away. Let me make sure everyone knows, at Charles McBee. It's all over my social media today with the release of the podcast. You have your own album out, How I See It, Volume 1. Where did you tape the album?
So here's the thing with that, super quick backstory. So like one of the biggest regrets I had once the world stopped spinning was that I never recorded a proper album. And so I was like, I don't even know if comedy is going to be a thing again. I don't know if I'm going to want to do comedy when this thing starts back. Like, I don't even know. And I never had an album. And then I started thinking, you know what? I've taped a lot of my sets, with a good recorder over the years. So I was like, why not just put out an album on my own and call it a mixtape? Like how rappers now will put out a mixtape, but it's really an album, but they'll call it a mixtape. Just in case it sucks, they don't have to say, well, it's not really, they can say it wasn't really my album, it was just a mixtape.
Sure, I love that. I think that's a fantastic idea, because putting out an album has become, and I put up quotes, easier. It's just more accessible.
Yeah.
Now it allows, when something's more accessible, it allows for creatives to come in and mess with the platform.
Right.
So I think that's a really, because right now, and we've had a lot of comics on this show, and I always tell people, I'm like, go on wherever you're streaming music. You're currently paying for the album already.
Exactly.
So wherever you stream music, you put in Charles McBee's name, the album will come up. And I think the cool part about that, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that you're getting a taste of your comedy in different like places, right?
Yeah. So and not only in different places, but how it kind of shifted over maybe 3 years or so, because depending on where the sets are. And I've had like I got different friends like coming in and doing little skits to kind of break it up so it doesn't sound crazy. So like it'll be one set maybe from a couple years ago where I was talking about race or talking about sex or whatever, and then a couple comics do skits, and then I'll jump to a different spot where I was talking about whatever Carolines or whatever the fuck it is. So like it runs smoothly, but it's definitely different sets from different places and different times.
I love that, and I think if the listeners, you guys, I've been pushing you guys towards comedy albums. This is a great way to differentiate and entertain. We want to give, I think what we forget is, I think a lot of times we forget, we're like, we want to do the jokes, you receive them, you laugh. But we kind of forget, like, a lot of this is about consumption too. Yeah. Maybe the way you're putting it out is a more consumable version of it. I get shit. Some people give me shit about putting tweets on Instagram. Like they'll comment like, "Oh, you put tweets on Instagram." I'm like, no, that's all packaging.
Yeah,
they look good there. I'm doing rough drafts on Twitter, and I'm bringing the good stuff to Instagram, and I can crop it and put it in, and I can serve it on a plate. And it's like I need all. It's like with food. They're like, it's all your senses.
Yeah. Who are these elitists who are judging that you're taking one content from one platform and mixing it with another platform?
It's haters are gonna hate. That is the reality of life, and they will find anything.
You're wearing a Nike shirt and Adidas sneakers. Who does that? That's so
it is very similar.
Get the fuck out of here.
I want to talk to you about your podcast before we get into the emails, because again, the platform exists. It becomes more accessible, so then people who are creative mess with the platform and find new ways to do it. Black Twitter Talk Podcast. Explain to the listeners, because they might be, I understand Black Twitter is a thing. Like I sometimes, and I remember I tweeted something, I think it was like, it had to have been like a year ago now, but it was basically saying how I love Black Twitter because there's always jokes going on there. It's a lot less, they're talking about important issues, but it seems like it's a lot more of a roasting area of Twitter. And I was saying how much I love that. And sometimes I'll have tweets like kind of dovetail into the Black Twitter world, and even talking about it, I sound racist. So I want you to explain, hopefully you can explain what Black Twitter is, and then your podcast, which I think is a great idea.
Black Twitter is what's great about it. I mean, if you want to be literal, I mean, some people can say, oh, it's a Reddit thread, or it's this is that. It's basically whenever some shit happens in Black culture, Black people go to Twitter and talk about it. And what's so great about it is that you can't go to Twitter and type in Black Twitter and then be in Black Twitter. That's what I love about it.
You're right. This is why it's more conceptual than it is a real thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can't there's no code. You can't, knock on the door 3 times. Either you know what's going on and you know where to go, or you just don't. And so when
there's no browser tab that's going to get you in. Yeah.
There's no Zoom link that you're going to get that takes it to no. Either you know what's happening in the culture, therefore that will prompt you to go to Twitter, and you will automatically be in Black Twitter because you're going to be talking about the same shit that everybody else is talking about on Black Twitter.
So your podcast is talking about news from Black Twitter? What's being like kind of the trending topics, I would assume, right?
Basically, yeah, the trending topics. And we don't necessarily, like, I don't necessarily stick to just the trending topics, only because the podcast has only been out for a year, so I'm still growing it and still figuring out exactly what I want it to be overall as it evolves. Like, sometimes we'll just talk about whatever we want to talk about, but through the lens of, because it's coming through my lens, it's still technically Black Twitter talk. You know what I mean? Like, so even if we dive into like relationships or dive into politics or whatever, it's still coming through the lens of Black Twitter. So it's topical, but then it could be whatever.
So give me like kind of the last big topic like what's the last big news story that Black Twitter like went off on? Like what would be the last one?
This has been a quiet week, but probably the last big one, either Jada and Will.
That's what I was thinking, and that even the word entanglement that became its own Black Twitter thing. Yeah. So I think it's a great idea for a podcast. What day of the week does it come out on?
Fridays. So
Fridays, Black Twitter Talk Podcast. Go to follow Charles McBee on Instagram or Twitter at Charles McBee. It'll be all over my socials. Go follow his podcast. I think it's a great idea and fun. And that's the thing, like, you know, when they say like the internet never loses, the internet's undefeated.
Right.
It's usually about a Black Twitter meme or like they find the joke. It is unbelievable.
You know why? Because just Black people in general, when we roast, like because laughter is how we deal with trauma anyway in the Black community. So like there really isn't that much of a filter. So especially now you add the internet to that and anonymity is just like, it doesn't matter. When Meg Thee Stallion got shot, Black Twitter didn't give a fuck. It was just like, all right.
It's time to quote unquote go off.
Go off. Yeah. So it gets pretty wild.
The idea of too soon is doesn't exist, but also too soon exists in the world of like, oh, you said it in the wrong place.
Right.
Too soon doesn't exist when the atmosphere is for too soon.
Right. Exactly. It's like it's getting mad at Gilbert Gottfried for making a joke about 9/11 at his own, at his show. Like, you're at a Gilbert Gottfried show. You knew where you were coming.
You knew what the show was going to be. Well, everyone go follow Charles at Charles McBee on Twitter and Instagram. Let's do some emails. You ready?
Let's do it.
jtrainpodcast@gmail.com, jtrainpodcast@gmail.com. How to handle ex-girlfriend. Charles, what's your relationship status?
Currently single.
Okay, how is single being in COVID? What was the last relationship? When?
Oh boy.
All very difficult questions to answer publicly.
No, yeah, publicly, but also like, so we're gonna talk offline. Last girlfriend, I won't go into details about who or what. But it was actually, we started dating not too long before lockdown hit. So like, it was a brand new relationship, and then right when lockdown hit, we thought, at least in New York, we thought New York was going to be shut down for like a week. Remember that? It was like, it'll be shut down for a week. No big deal. So she was like, well, how about we kind of just shack up for a week and just like have fun. I was like, yeah, bet. So she came to live with me for a week. A week turned into 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into 3 weeks. And her roommate ended up getting COVID, so she couldn't go back home. So she was just here, and it was fine. Like, it was no beef between us. Like, we were great, but then she started to kind of, get really depressed and spiral just from everything that was happening. Like, she lost a job, this, that, and the third.
Right.
So that caused a real kind of downward spiral, and then she like just dipped. Like,
Oy.
no warning, no nothing. One morning, she just like dipped and was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and like bounced. And I was just like,
Really?
Okay. All right. Yeah, it was crazy. It was wild. And so
I'm sorry to hear that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying what was wild was the fact I had to laugh about the fact that like while we were together, while we were shacking up, the level of empathy I had for everything that was happening in the world while we were like shacking up, as opposed to once she left and I was just alone in my apartment, drastically.
Two different people.
Like, soon as I was like alone, I was like, wait, there's a pandemic? Like, what do you mean people are dying? I've been having sex and living in a fantasy.
Living in the Garden of Eden, just hanging out, hair flowing everywhere, sheets floating across the sky. Yeah.
We've been baking and lovemaking for the past month and a half. I don't know what the hell's been going on. So that was my relationship status.
So have you had any contact with this person since? Because I will say that when the situation that you just described, it's like, okay, let's go together for a week. Holy shit, this is worse than we thought. Holy shit, where is my future? What am I going to do? I can understand the freak out. I can understand going, and this relationship has gone from we're having fun and casual to like we're inching along the relationship, timeline to we have taken a fucking speed bus to the front of the, I can understand that.
Yeah, totally. 100%. The only thing that I had an issue with it wasn't the fact that, she needed time or space. I'm king time and space. So I'm like, if you need to slow things down, let's slow down. Or if you need space, definitely give you your space or whatever the case might be. My only issue was how she went about it. And she even admitted that she was wrong for how she went about it. She just like, no warning, just took off and dipped without any conversation or any consideration for my feelings, for us. And also, it was kind of like, she's like, oh, everything's moving too fast. Everything, I need to figure things out. I'm like, you asked to stay with me. Like,
sure.
You brought on hey, let's be official. Let's be, you know what I mean? I was taking more her lead because I didn't want to rush into things either. But I was kind of like, you know what? She's dope. We're like, in this space, like, let's do it. If she's with it, I'm with it. That type of thing. So, but that was the only issue. But as far as us having like talking, we talked it out, like maybe a couple days later. And then, there was maybe a text after that, but then ever since then, not really. And I've, at the end of the day, like I wanted to give her space, but then I also needed my space too, to kind of
totally,
heal and get over it. So it was just been like, you know what, while we're forced to be, on lockdown per se, even though we're not as locked down now as before, it was just like, let me just give time to like.
I totally understand that. And I also, it's interesting because it's like from both sides. I understand going, okay, I made this bed. Now I got to unmake the fucking bed and there's no good way to do it. And then you walk out of it and you're like, okay, now I have to adjust. I need the time to go through what you probably went through leading up to that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Let's do the email. Hey, Jared, my ex and I, who dated for about a year and a half, recently got back in touch. My ex and I, who dated for about a year and a half, recently got back in touch after not speaking for the last 10 months after she got a new job and moved cities. She's about a 45-minute plane ride away, so it's very simple for us to see each other. She's 31 and I'm 28. While I'm not wanting to rush into things, I can't figure out how I'm supposed to feel. I still really love this girl, but she hurt me pretty bad at the end of our breakup and basically ghosted me. I feel like I need some effort and proving from her for me to be more secure about things this time around. I want to make sure I protect myself. How can I go about conveying this to her? So what do you think?
Well, So two things. One, I'm petty spaghetti, which is something that I'm working on personally.
Sure.
So anyone who, hurt me or ghosted me or whatever the case where I felt slighted, I'm less likely to want to get back involved or want to give this person another chance unless that person really comes forward and is like, hey, I fucked up. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. And then please let me show you how sorry I am. Like, you're not about to casually try to get back with me or casually come into my life and think that I'm going to jump on the opportunity to get back with you. That's just me.
Well, I think that's important because the way you're presenting it. There's two options. There's like, and he said they dated for about a year and a half, and then recently got back in touch after 10 months. And she's moved cities. She has a new job. So here's the reality. It's either she's rethinking everything and saying, holy fuck, this is the person I should be with. Right. And she makes the effort to do that. Or it's, I have a new job. I have a new city. Everything in my life is up in the air. There's a pandemic going on, and here's someone that can be a constant for me so I can like feed off of their consistency.
Yeah.
And that's when you're being used because this guy is sitting there being like, I fucking, I don't want to, he says, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. You can feel however you want to feel.
Right.
He says, I still really love this girl, but she hurt me. So like, hey, you love this girl. That's okay. You can own that. But you can also say, this isn't about you. She can't come back to you for medicine. She's got to come back to you to like work on it with you.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing to decipher is like, hey, your text isn't enough.
Right.
I love you, and I could entertain the idea of us getting back together, but you fucking ghosted. You disappeared out of the blue. How do I, I'm going to be a little bit more protective this time.
And I think everything that he just said, like he said, I don't know what to say. Everything he said in the letter or in the email is basically what you should say to her if you want to say anything. Like literally everything he just laid out, say to her. Don't beat around the bush. Don't be afraid of confrontation or how she's going to take it or how he said it. Everything he just said was very, it wasn't rude. It wasn't, foul or flagrant. Just, hey, this is how I feel. This is how, and here's what it is. And let her answer that.
And what usually happens is that they scurry away.
Yeah.
Like they usually go, oh shit, this is, when someone's trying to use you to feel better, they go, oh God, I don't want the responsibility of them.
Yeah.
They're like, and they're like, I gotta go.
I have to be accountable for my actions.
Yeah, this is going to take actual work. And it's it's going to take some fucking work to get back into my good graces and for me to trust you again. That includes, hey, let me make a trip in 2 weeks. Hey, let's go out for dinner. I'm willing to make these types of moves and sacrifice my time and my energy to get back together. And a lot of times and what you said is so correct, where it's like, don't beat around the bush. You lay it out and you say, here's the standard you have to meet. And they either do or they don't. And what the problem is, when you give someone a standard, 99% of the time they don't want that. And
you have to be okay with them leaving. Like, you have to be okay with that. If you buckle and you're so afraid that they'll call your bluff or that they'll say, all right, well, I'm out or whatever the case, then you're not going to convey what you really mean and how you really feel. And you're always going to have that sense of either resentment or you're going to have some sense of this scarcity mindset. You got to stand on your own, hold your own nuts and really let her know how you feel. You don't have to be toxic with it, but be direct, and she can take it or leave it. It is what it is.
It's like the equivalent of like the strict but fair person. It's like the parent. Like, and I'm not saying that this girl's parent, but I'm saying when you're owning like what you want, it comes off cold but you're like, this is the only way to go. It's like it's the parent who says it's bedtime at 8 o'clock, and they go, no, and you go, that's how we do it here. You'll respect me later for this.
Yeah. Now I wonder. He says he does still love her. I wonder if that love, if that was a one-way street. Like, did she love him back? Did she express that she was in love with him or loved him? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I do wonder what her side of it is, but just based on what he's given us, I think that's definitely the way to go.
We are sponsored, people. The J-Train podcast is brought to you by Upstart. During these economically turbulent times, everyone is looking for a way to feel more financially secure. If you're still throwing money at a high-interest credit card every month, it's time to check out Upstart, the revolutionary lending platform that knows you're more than just your credit score. Find out how low your Upstart rate can be today. Listen, I think this is amazing. If you're in debt of any kind, Upstart is a great way to see if you can lower that without really doing too much. Like, I think this is an easy way for you to look at things without affecting your credit score. This is something that just looking into it is worth your time. Upstart goes beyond the traditional credit score. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter rate. Skip the bank. It's completely online loans from $1,000 to $50,000. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate since it's just a soft pull. It won't affect your credit score. The hard pull happens if you accept the rate. The best part, once the loan is approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day, the next day. Over 400,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards or meet their financial goals. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. That's the biggest part of this. If you have a bunch of different debts, you're dealing with different rates. If you can combine the rates to make a smaller, if you combine the rates, that's your going rate of all your debt. If Upstart's lower than that, we're immediately saving you money. So it's worth looking into. See why Upstart has 4.9 out of a 5 rating on Trustpilot. Hurry to upstart.com/JTrain. to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes and won't affect your credit rate. Only takes a few minutes. That's upstart.com/JTrain. Here's the part the lawyers make me say. Let me go through this. Your loan amount will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Not all applicants will qualify for the full amount. We are sponsored, people. Talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. Usually we just brush it off or blame ourselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo, or we avoid it altogether with excuses like, I had a long day at work, or sorry, honey, I'm just not feeling it. I can give you a million excuses where you're just saying tonight's not the night, and you're kind of grazing over an issue, a health issue. But with Roman, it's easy to talk about it with a healthcare professional who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, and totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your own home. A healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan if medication is appropriate. Roman will ship it to you free with free 2-day shipping. So you're getting free 2-day shipping for something that's going to help you out. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/JTrain. That's GetRoman.com/JTrain and complete an online visit. Erectile dysfunction used to be tough to tackle. You used to have to leave the house. You used to have to go wait in a waiting room. You used to have to where are you going today? Oh, I'm going to go get my ED checked. No, none of that. Now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a healthcare professional and take care of it. Go to GetRoman.com/JTrain today. If approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of ED treatment. That's GetRoman.com/JTrain. GetRoman.com/JTrain. JTrain Podcast at gmail.com. JTrain Podcast at gmail.com. Here with Charles McBee Charles McBee. Go follow Instagram, Twitter, Black Twitter Talk Podcast. That's the podcast every Friday. Let's do another one.
Let's do it.
Innocent mistake or creepy? Okay.
Did I write this to you?
Jared, love the podcast. You're hilarious and love your advice. I've been seeing a guy during the quarantine, and it's been really going well. We met about a year ago and have been friends, but have been seeing each other a little more seriously for the past month or so. Both he and I live in a major city, but at our parents' shore houses temporarily due to COVID, which is how we reconnected. So let's wrap this up. They both live in a big city, but their parents both have shore houses. That's how they've become intimate, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Something to know about me is that I'm a very private I am very private with my relationships and really wait until the exclusivity conversation to tell my friends outside of my really close friends and family that I'm seeing someone. However, a couple things have happened that I found a little weird, and I want to get your thoughts on them. One, when I was away from the shore for a couple days, he said I was running down your street and saw your family outside. He's been to my house but has never met my family, and I live in a small private neighborhood. I just thought it was odd, and it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. What do you think about that? Let's start before we go to the next one. What do we think?
So she's been to his house. I mean, he's been to her house before, so he knows where she lives.
He's been to my house but has never met her family, and she lives in a small private neighborhood.
Yeah, but even if it's this is just based on that information.
Sure.
Even if it's a small private neighborhood, he's still been to her house before. So it's not like he hasn't been to her house. And maybe he's just assuming that the people, if they're away on a shore, quarantining on a shore house? I'm not rich, so I don't know what, like a shore house or whatever it is. I'm assuming that it's families going to the shore house and quarantining together.
Absolutely.
So if you're running by the house and you're seeing the people outside, like, I'm going to assume, it's their family or whatever. Like, I'm just going to assume it.
Also, if they were friends for a year before getting together, like, you guys aren't meeting off of Tinder.
Right.
You said I've been quarantining, seeing a guy, and it's going really well. We met about a year ago, have been friends, and then seeing each other a little more seriously for the past month. This is not meeting someone off of Tinder. This is not meeting someone at a bar. This is someone that you have a certain relationship with. I understand that you're private, and I understand there's this. Listen, there's a fine line between I'm private with my relationships and I'm self-conscious of getting kind of being the talk of other people's table talk.
Right.
You know, like I do understand we all want a little bit of privacy, but then there is this person, these people that exist out there that are like, I need, you're coming, you ran by my house. And it's like, he went on a run. To me, this sounds normal. I think it sounds normal to you, right? Like I could see how he was like, you guys have been hooking up for a month. You've been friends for a year. He runs by her house. He sees the family outside, and he wants a reason to talk to you. And he wants in between the time. Yeah, that was the end, to be like, hey, I saw your family. That was kind of, just letting you know I was running by the house.
Now, had he had jogged up to the house and spoken to her family and was like, hey, I'm fucking your niece, daughter, cousin. Creepy. I'm with you. Let's go to her second question. He requested to follow my good friend on Instagram. I've never talked about her with him, and nor has he ever met her. She just reached out and asked me how I knew the guy because he requested to follow her. She commented on my most recent post, see attached, I'm the girl on the left. So I think he may have clicked on her profile and done this by accident. Should I ask him if it was by accident or why he did that? If so, how should I bring it up? This is the post she commented on. Thanks, Jared Key, with the great words. So I'm looking at the post. She's on the left. She's there with her friend. And he requested to follow her friend who's in the picture. Let me say for the audience at home, the picture is of them on the beach in bikinis. Like, this does okay, this is a slip up. To me, this is him showing, and it would be weird though, because
he's like, if he's never met the friend, it's weird because it's kind of him. I don't know if Charles, you agree, but it's a little flirtatious to go follow the friend that you saw in the beach picture.
Bro, you cannot, if you have any interest or, and in this case, you're already hooking up with this person, but even if I'm interested in a girl, right? And we're talking or whatever the case might be, I'm not following your friend. I'm not following your, and there's been cases where, you know, I'll be scrolling or whatever, and I'll come across, you know, the girl's post or whatnot. And I'm like, oh, I never met her sister before. Holy shit. You know, or I never met her friend is, oh my gosh, I'm not following. It's not a good look.
It's I see it.
I see it.
I've noticed it. She's cute. I move on. Because here's what doesn't make sense is that, like, what's he think is going to happen? Like, let's go down Flirty Road. Flirty Road would him be going, yeah, I'm hooking up with this girl for a month. Wow, her friend's cute. I'll follow her and try to hook up with her. That seems like an impossible mountain to climb. Like, even the best coxman of our day wouldn't take that route.
Yeah.
Now, if you go the I like you route, and he's like, oh, she's a friend of hers. I want to be more friends with her friends.
Still not a good look.
Still not a good look. Yeah. So it's a no-win. So I would say the first one, we agree, he's running by the family house. That's something she should leave alone. This one, I would say, I think you can playfully jab at it. I don't think this is reason to, like, end the 1 month or to rethink what you've done in the past with them. It is just a pause moment. And you say to him, I would say to him, hey, I would even text him. I think you have the right to be like, hey, my friend just texted me. Do you know her? Why are you following my friend? What made you do that? And he could have a couple responses. One, I thought she was. I don't know what his response would be.
That's the thing. I don't know what his response would be. It would be if somebody called me out for that, it would be such an awkward moment for me because I don't know what a valid excuse would be.
Yeah, the only thing that I can, the only mistake he could have made is he requested to follow my good friend on Instagram. I've never talked about her with him, nor has he met her. She just reached out and asked me how I knew the guy because he requested to follow. Here's something.
Okay, all right.
She commented on the post. She's not in the picture. But that's still weird. It's still weird for all.
Commented on the post?
So the friend commented on the post. He clicked on the person's name and requested to follow her. It is weird that he would, even if she's not. I thought she was in the picture. She didn't comment on the picture she was in. She's just commenting on another picture. This is he's following the commenter, not the other girl in the picture. Even
still, so there's been times where, again, I'm on somebody's page, blah, 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 and I'm in the comment section, reading the comments, blah, 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 blah. And even sometimes you'll see a thumbnail that pops out at you like, oh, who is that? I have no idea who this person is, but the thumbnail is just like, who is that? And you click on it, it's like, oh, she's cute. But I'm still like, especially if it's on something like Facebook, because I'm like, I have no connection with this person. There's
still not
no reason for me to hit this person up, especially if they have a private page and you have to request their, whatever back to
it's just too risky to follow someone who is friendly enough with the girl you're hooking up with to comment on their posts. And so I think you have a right to go, hey, my friend just texted me saying that you're trying to follow her on Instagram. What's the deal? And leave it at that. His answer could be, I thought I knew her. Oh, I thought we had met before. I thought it was your friend. He could say, because the thumbnail's so small, he could go, oh, I thought that was the friend we had met at blankety blank. That's really the only response that has some merit.
I thought I saw her outside of your family's house as I was jogging by and stalking you.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com, JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. here with Charles McBee. Go follow at Charles McBee on Instagram and Twitter. Black Twitter Talk Podcast. Go every Friday. How do I recover from this? Jared, I'm a 28-year-old visiting my hometown for an extended amount of time due to COVID. There was a guy from college I always thought was cute but never actually met. I was recently introduced to him. It started out textbook with an IG request, window tapping. Window tapping is when you like a bunch of their pictures, whatever.
Okay.
It basically, I've coined the phrase window tapping. It's just you liking 10 pictures in a row and being like, yoo-hoo, I'm here.
That's hilarious.
So, and then him sliding in my DMs. So this is 2020 romance dance.
Yeah.
They get introduced. They follow each other on IG. They like a bunch of each other's pictures. He slid into the DMs. Finally, I get the invite over for drinks. I drank and smoked a little too much, then started hooking up. Mid-hookup, I threw up in my mouth and had to run to the bathroom. This happened twice. Yes, he was fully aware I had a mouthful of puke. Not much was said the next morning as I left as soon as I could. I'm mortified. I feel I ruined my chance for a future hookup. I have not heard from him since. How can I come back from this? Sincerely, bad first impression. So what do you think? Have you ever had a similar situation?
Not well. I've never had that specific situation, but I've had situations where the girl kind of embarrassed herself. But here's the thing, and I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's a hot shot, whatever. And
sure,
he could have 1,000 girls chasing after him or something like that or whatever. But for most guys, for your average guy, he's always on such an edge of trying to be cool and trying to not make an ass out of himself that when the girl ends up making an ass out of herself, it's such a relief for us that it's almost endearing depending on how she handles it. So like if she comes back and she's just like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. I can't believe, I did that, blah, blah, blah. If that were me and I'm into this girl, like that would be such an endearing moment just for me and such a weight off my shoulders of having to be the coolest guy on the planet, or at least in my own head to try and impress her, that it would actually make for a more relaxing time on the second go around.
I agree with you completely. I will say you don't hear guys don't end things with girls because they puked once.
Yeah, no.
Guys end things with girls who puke every time they go out. It's not about, I think I understand the story is an embarrassing story that your friends would laugh at and he might tell friends and they would laugh at, but I don't think it's a story that's like, and I ended it. That's not how this, so yeah. And also it's proven by the story she tells. In her email, mid-hookup, I threw up in my mouth and had to run to the bathroom. This happened twice.
Right.
Yes, he was fully aware I had a mouthful of puke. So after the first time you had puke in your mouth, he still hooked up with you.
Yeah.
So that's how much he cared about the puke. So it happened twice. So his actions prove the whole thing. I think the worst way to go about it is kind of the way she's doing it. I feel I have not heard from him since. You need to text. You need to be like, hey, I still feel be a little vulnerable. Be a little, hat in hand. I still feel a little weird about what happened. And then let him go, no, it happens to all of us. And then you just say, I'd still love to hang out. I promise I won't turn into, Johnny Pukestein again. Like I promise, and take the bullet, take the loss. I think we think in this day and age that we should always just like never admit fault. And if you don't admit fault, you're not at fault. It's like, no, shoot him a text. Hey, I'm still in my head about this. Let him write you back like some nice things like, no, it happens to us. One time I puked in college and it happened to me. None of us are without puking in our past.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. And I think that Yeah, definitely her, being the vulnerable one. Like I said, because men are always, and I'm sure, and that's not to say that, women aren't in their heads, about putting on a good show or impressing the guy. But with men, this is how we are every single day. It's the reason we wash our ass before we leave the house. Like, it's all for women. The reason we, do anything is for women. So that pressure to always be on, always be cool, always say the right thing, do the right thing. We gotta, can the dick stay hard? Please God, not tonight. Like all of that is what we're thinking all of the time. So any chance to take that pressure off of us, and actually when a girl kind of takes that L, it's really endearing to us, and it kind of evens the playing field. It makes things more relaxed, at least on our end. So I think he would be very receptive. He's not going to look at you like a fucking loser,
It is, what you're saying is right, where it's like women are so put together. To see like one hair come off, like go out of place, you're like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm not, like, there's some normalcy to this person. This is like, see, as crazy as this sounds, this adds depth. You're not just a girl he met on, that he thought was hot on Instagram. It's the girl who was funny about how she puked twice in her mouth. It adds, it adds character to the whole thing.
Yeah. And if you're if you're the type of girl who, had a little too much or whatever, puked in your mouth and then was embarrassed about it and apologetic, you're an angel.
Yeah.
You know how many girls I've been out with who's like, yeah, I threw up all over your wall. So don't be a bitch about it. Like,
yeah, like a little bit of vulnerability goes a long way.
Yeah.
The J Train Podcast is brought to you by Native Deodorant. I believe in having clean options. I support companies who innovate products that break the norm and help clean up my daily routine. That's why I love Native. I love Native Deodorant, okay? I'll say this to you right now. My girlfriend, Jess, she is a natural deodorant user. When we first met, I was like, whew, you smell great. And then I'd roll my eyes and try to turn the other way. But then Native came into our lives. And Native is a all-natural deodorant that is safe and effective. No aluminum, parabens, or talc. It's made with ingredients you've heard of, like coconut oil and shea butter. Switching to an aluminum-free deodorant doesn't mean you have to sacrifice odor protection. Native will keep you smelling and feeling fresh all day long. With over 10 scents, 10, including rotating seasonals. Native has something for everyone. Their most popular classic scents are coconut and vanilla, lavender and rose, cucumber and mint, and citrus and herbal. I'll say I love the cucumber mint. It's fresh. It's like clean sheets. It's like being in a spa. It's like, you could sniff up and down an armpit and be like, wow, where am I? Am I getting a massage or am I in someone's armpit? You wouldn't know. Best part is Native, there's no risk to try. Native has free shipping and free returns in the United States. Do what I did. And I'm using Native. Jess uses Native. We're all using it, and I'm feeling fresh as a daisy. Make the switch to Native today by going to nativedeo.com/JTrain. It's nativedeo.com/JTrain. Let me repeat that again. nativedeo.com/JTrain, or use code JTrain during checkout and get 20% off your first order. That's nativedeo.com. Use code JTrain during checkout. Native Deodorant, take care of your body. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Here with Charles McBee. Now, I want to do this email. This person, and I think it's important, they sent 2 emails back to back.
Okay.
Now, they have 2 different questions, but it's about the same guy. And I understand maybe why they wrote 2 emails back to back, because they were like, I want to make sure I can get one of my questions answered. If it's too long, then Jared won't answer it. But reading one without, you can't read these independently when it's about the same guy.
Right.
So this is the first email is this one. Why does he never want to hang out when I suggest it? Okay, so I'll read that email first.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let me read. The first one's titled, "Why does he never want to hang out when I suggest it?" The second one's titled, "Why does this girl keep messaging my boyfriend?" Now, to me, those are two issues that go together.
Mm-hmm.
He, without even reading the emails, why does he not want to hang out when I suggest it? And another girl is messaging him. So to me, that is, we are putting together a resume of a guy who is more casual with you than you are with him. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, already. As soon as, with the first one, not even the other girl messaging, with the first one, why doesn't he want to hang out when I want to? It's like, I already know where this is going.
Well, she says, so let's read that first one. Why does he never want to hang out when I suggest it? Come to you for sage dating advice. I've been seeing a guy for about 2 months, and things have been going great. Hanging out multiple times a week, spending the night at each other's apartments, FaceTime calls usually once a day, the whole deal. He's tried to have the dating conversation a few times, but it's not something I'm quite ready to define yet, even though I do really like him. Here's the issue. We only hang out on his terms when he suggests it. I don't have a lot going on right now outside of work, given that everything is closed, so when he asks me to come over or to go to the park or something, I'm usually free and want to, since I want to spend time with him. But whenever I suggest he comes over or that we should hang out, he either has some excuse of why he can't, too tired, or hanging with his roommates, or he says yes, but then ditches to do something better like hang out with his friends. I brought it up to today that it upsets me when he does that, using an instance from last night when this happened as an example, and he told me that I shouldn't be annoyed by that. Is he right? Am I being over dramatic? It's to the point where I'm afraid to ask him to do something because he'll turn me down. But is waiting for him to ask me to hang out just desperate? For reference, we live 5-minute drive away from each other, and we're both in our early 20s. I really like him and don't want to be something. Want this to be some, and don't want this to be something that potentially ends whatever we have going on. But at the same time, I want my feelings to be validated and not like I have to tiptoe around us spending time together. Any advice you could provide would be much appreciated. So what do you think? I mean, so that email we have, and to me, the biggest problem with the email is him saying to you, he told me that I shouldn't be annoyed by that. You can be annoyed about whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Anything can annoy you. It is called your taste buds are different than his taste buds, are different from Charles, is different from mine. So if this tastes bad to you, that's okay. You don't have to have it. And for you to say that he ditches you to go with his friends to a better hangout, that's someone who, and I understand he said he wants to have the dating conversation. Just because he said he wants to have the dating conversation doesn't mean you want the same type of relationship that he maybe thinks he wants, right?
100%. As you were going through that, all I could think is you seem like a sweet girl. You seem like a really cool person, but unfortunately, you're an option to him. At least that's how he's treating you. You're not a priority. He's a priority to you. You're not a priority to him. Now, does this mean that he's banging a ton of other chicks? I don't know. I don't know this guy. I have no idea. But the things that are in his life, his friends, his roommates, his whatever the case might be, you are not on top of that list. You rank below the friends, you rank below if there's other girls or whatever the case is, but you're not on top of that list. And it sucks when you realize that you're not being treated the same way that you're treating the other person. It happens on both ends. It happens guys versus girls, girls versus guys, but this is that case.
And the toughest part is she wrote something very specific. She's like, I don't want to, the toughest part is that there's a point where you can make it a pride thing where you're like, well, I've asked you 3 times and you've asked me 0 times. You can't get into that game. You have to, right now, you feel upset. That's okay. Bathe in it. Own it. Tell him I feel upset and I'm going to stop making plans with you if you can't make a plan with me. And I would back off, but then she wrote something. I don't want to hang out, just wait for him to say just to be desperate. There's nothing desperate in stating what you want. And you've stated it, and now you can kind of push it away. Let's read her other email.
Okay.
Jared, this has been bugging me for a few months. I can't believe she says a few months. Okay. I started dating my boyfriend exclusively a few months ago. Things are going great except this pesky girl who keeps popping up. She's in the same loosely defined friend group as him, meaning they will usually only be around each other when their group of friends plan a big hangout. I know they hooked up about a year ago because I was there to witness it, which is fine. We were not involved in any way at that point. I ended up doing something with him and this group a few months ago, and he told me she would be there. I tried to keep an open mind and be nice, but ultimately got a very bitchy vibe. When I asked him afterward what really happened with her, he said that after they hooked up, he stopped talking to her, which is true. If true, explains why she might be a little bit bitter about the situation, not very welcoming to a new girlfriend. Now she randomly Snapchats him from time to time in a non-group setting. He says it's because they're quote-unquote friends, which is the same thing he says when they hang out in a group setting and I'm not around. Whenever I express this upsets me, he tells me there's nothing he can do. But I feel like he could definitely say something about the Snapchat since she knows he is dating someone. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is sketchy behavior, something to be worried about, or if the girl has an ulterior motive, any insight is appreciated? So this combined with the last email is, to your point, what you just said. You're an option. You're someone he's keeping at arm's length. He is dating you when convenient, to me, right?
Yeah, 100%. And there now to be fair, she's what? Did she say her age? She was in her 20s?
Early 20s.
Class, you and I are dinosaurs. So, so as you become more of a dinosaur and you reflect back on your 20s, there are things that you just don't tolerate in your 30s, but whatever the case, as you get older, that you tolerate it in your early 20s. So it's not. So I just want to make that clear because I know you have a very young audience that it's just a rite of passage. You definitely, a couple years from now, you will look back on this and go, I can't believe I allowed this asshole to, treat me X, Y, and Z. But right now, it feels how it feels, and you have a right to feel that way. But yes, he is treating you like an option. And anytime that you're in a relationship and the person has sex with somebody in their past and that person is still kind of around, still reaching out to them, if that person that you're dating isn't going out of their way to make you feel secure and okay with the fact that, hey, this person, there's nothing going on with me and this person, then there's something that doesn't necessarily mean there's something going on, but that is telling. He wouldn't want to be treated the same way if the roles were reversed. If it was reversed and you had a guy that was texting you, he'd go, hey, can you let them know that like you're seeing someone and that's not like, and the fact that you got a bitchy vibe when you hung out, like that's part of it too, because I understand why that girl would be like, oh, that woman, she would go, oh, there's my replacement, which isn't true. But then she says, let me see, he's allowing this and, he's allowing these snaps to happen. So if she feels that you're in a replacement, which isn't true, but if that's her feeling, now she gets some sort of like, 2-second enjoyment out of being like unseating you, because it's what he's doing is he's allowing a competition to occur behind closed doors between you and her that doesn't exist. Yeah, 100%. It's not like there aren't cases where you're dating someone and the person you're dating is friends with someone that they hooked up with years ago, but now they're just friends. Like, that happens. But if that person cares about you at all, they are at least going to make the effort to really let you know, hey, yes, me and this person hooked up 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but we are nothing but friends. Like, there's going to be a real conversation about it, and they're going to be thoughtful enough to be transparent with everything that's going on, just so that you're comfortable with it.
The answer of "that's your problem, you shouldn't be mad" is a way of like kind of like juking you out. It's a way of like avoiding the whole conversation together. If I'm and the thing is, it's not that like there's one thing where you're like, oh, he'll never hang out when I want to hang out. That's one thing that you can work on. But then it becomes he does want to hang out anytime I want to hang out, and he's texting other women. Well, now you have a resume that really isn't adding up to what you want. And you can say to him, like, listen, I'm going to take a step back. I'm looking for this type of relationship. Whether I'm dating someone or not, this is what I want. If you don't want to do that, that's okay. But I need to step back and let you come to me a little bit. And if you don't, then I'm going to, like, walk away. And the tough part about that is, like, you're not necessarily dumping them, but you're saying, I want to work this out. When we're together, it's great. Just because it's great when you're together doesn't mean it's a great relationship.
100%.
And that's tough. That's the toughest ones to end, because you're like, damn it. Like, I got it all when it's in these, but it's easy to be a good boyfriend when I'm in front of the person. It's harder when it's, hey, I need you to come over. Hey, I need you to do this. I need, because that's why relationships exist. It's,
Also, she's calling it a relationship. I'm interested to know if he's calling it a relationship.
Yeah.
Because what she considers a relationship, he could just consider a situationship.
Yeah, and he could and that's where you have to figure it out. And are we on the same page as far as feelings are happening? We are moving forward. He could be just sitting on the corner like, yeah, I'm here whenever you need me. And she's like, well, I'm looking to travel. No. Well, I'm on this corner. That's not how it works. And
people are able to compartmentalize, especially guys. It's like when he's with you, oh yeah, you're the center of his universe because you're physically right there. So like, you're gonna feel like you're on a honeymoon. But the second that he leaves you, his brain is like on to whatever else he has going on. So you're sitting there like, yeah, but when he was here, it felt like we were in love and he treated me like this, he treated me like that. Yeah, because you were right there in front of him. It's how he treats you in totality.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Charles McBee, thank you for coming on. This was fantastic.
Yo, man, I'm having a ball. Thank you for having me.
This was great. Everyone go follow Charles. He's hilarious. @Charles McBee on Twitter and Instagram. How I See It, Volume 1. That's the album. And Black Twitter Talk Podcast. That's the podcast every Friday. Go, go, go. It's all over my social media. Thank you again, Charles. Such a fantastic episode. I'm Jared Freid. We are here every Monday and Thursday. Keep spreading the word. Let people know. Tell your brother, your sister, your mama, your papa. We'll be back next episode. Boom.